Hello and welcome to my AQA GCSE Maths Higher Paper 3 predicted paper for this summer. Before we begin, some general information. Firstly, I'd highly recommend that you download and try doing this paper before watching the walkthrough. I've put a link in the description so you can download it to try first. The paper perfectly covers the advanced topic list material released by AQA in February 2022. All of the questions are original and created by myself, so you won't find these questions in any other paper. And finally, there's no guarantee that questions will be asked exactly in this way, but this is excellent practice for your summer exams. For this question, the easiest way to do it is write out the numbers in full decimal form. So the first one is 0.2 recurring, that's 0.222222, and so on. The next one is just 0.22. The next one is 0.22, but then the 1 recurs, so it's 0.22, 1111111, and so on. The last one is 0.21 recurring, so both the 2 and the 1 recur, so 0.212121, and so on. To find out which of these is the smallest, we look down the columns. The first two columns perfectly match, they're 0.2, but if you look in the third column, right at the bottom, we have a number 1, whereas all of the other digits are a number 2. Since 1 is smaller than 2, the bottom number must be the smallest, so the answer is 0.21 recurring. For this one, we're trying to find the lowest common multiple of 10, 20 and 40, so we'll just write out the multiples of 10, the multiples of 20, and the multiples of 40, and we're looking for the lowest number that's in all of the lists. That number happens to be 40, so that's the answer. For this question, we'll start by multiplying the b and the 6 in the middle. So we have a, b times 6 is 6b, and then we've got this final bracket. Now we'll look at the bracket at the end. So we've got a plus 6b, and then we've got minus b, and then the negative multiplied by the other negative makes the a positive, so it's positive a. We can then simplify by collecting like terms, so a add a is 2a, and 6b minus b is 5b, so the answer is 2a plus 5b. For this question, we're told the bearing of b from A is 70 degrees. We can draw this in a diagram, so if we draw A first, and then another point B, if we do a north line at A and then connect up to B, the angle here must be 70 degrees. The question asks us for the bearing of A from B though, so this would be drawing a north line at B and then going round clockwise until you face A, so we need this angle here. Now we can work out this angle here because 70 and this angle must make 180 degrees because the north lines are parallel. This is an example of co-interior or allied angles. So this angle is 110 degrees. Since this angle and the angle we want make a full circle, we can do 360 take away 110 to get our angle. So the answer is 250 degrees. For this question, we're selecting a chess team with one member from each of the year groups. To find out the possible combinations, all you need to do is multiply the number of people in each year group together. So 7 times 10 times 6 times 4. If you do this on your calculator, you'll get 1680. For this question, we're trying to find the highest common factor of 36 and 120. There are two ways you might do this. First of all, you could write down all of the factors of 36, and then all of the factors of 120, and then find the highest one that's in both lists. That happens to be 12, so the answer is 12. Instead, you may prefer to use prime factors. So if you express both of these numbers as a product of prime factors, 36 looks like this, and 120 looks like this. You then look for the common factors in each number, so we've got 2 2's in each one, and we've also got 1 3 in each one, so 2 times 2 times 3 does also give you 12. For this question, we're told the mass is measured to the nearest gram. So to find the upper and lower bounds, we'll add or take away 0.5 grams. If we start with the lower bound, 25 take away 0.5 is 24.5, and for the upper bound, 25 add 0.5 is 25.5. Now for this next one, we're dealing with a multi-pack of crisps, which has 12 individual packets. So all we do is take the bounds from the single packet and multiply by 12. So 24.5 times 12 gives a lower bound of 294, and 25.5 times 12 gives an upper bound of 306. For this question, we're told we're dealing with a geometric progression. For a geometric progression, to get from one term to the next, you multiply or divide by a number. To work out what number we're multiplying or dividing by here, I'm going to do 24 divided by 32, which gives you 0.75. This means to get from 32 to 24, I multiply by 0.75. So to get the next two terms, all I need to do is keep multiplying by 0.75. So 24 times 0.75, that's 18, so that's the third term. And then take that 18 and times by 0.75, and that gives you 13.5, and that's the fourth term. Next we have an arithmetic progression. So to get from one term to the next, we add or take away a number, but we need to work out the nth term. So first of all, how do we get from one term to the next? In all cases here, it's take away 2. So the nth term will be minus 2n. We can then write the minus 2 times table above the sequence, so minus 2, minus 4, minus 6, and so on, and work out how to get from the red numbers here to the black numbers. In all cases, it's add 22. So the nth term is minus 2n, add 22. You could also write this answer as 22 take away 2n. For this question, we need to work out the vector 2a plus b. So we'll start by taking a and multiplying it by 2. To do this, you just double all of the numbers in the vector. So 2 times 7 is 14, and 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. We then need to just add vector b, so add vector b. And then we do 14 add negative 3, which gives you 11. And then negative 6 add 6 gives you 0. For this question, I like to draw a table. So we'll start with Ryan and Amy, who share their money in the ratio 4 to 5. We can then draw the table, making space for a total column. The total amount of ratio parts is 9, since 4 add 5 is 9. We then look at the other numbers in the question. We have £315. That's the total amount of money, so I'll write it underneath the total column. We then need to work out how to get from 9 to £315. To do this, you can do 315 divided by 9, which gives 35. So to get from 9 to 315, I multiply by 35. Now we can multiply any of the other numbers by 35 to find out how much money they had. In this question, we only need to work out how much Ryan receives, so we do 4 times 35, which gives you the answer of £140. In the question, we're told that between 2018 and 2019, the number of students coming by car increases by 30%. So if we look at the column with cars, there's already a 220 there, but we need to increase that by 30%. So take 220 and multiply by 1.3. This gives you 286. So that's the number for 2019. We can also complete this column by finding the total, so 220 add 286 gives you 506. So that's the total for cars. The only missing value is 2018 for walk, so we need to do 246, take away 114, which gives you an answer of 132. So this is the number of people that walked in 2018. For this question, we need to find the turning point. The turning point can be seen right at the bottom of the graph here. That has coordinates -1, -2. We then need to find the roots. The roots are where the graph crosses the x-axis, so that's here and here. These would be at -2.4 and 0.4. This question comes in two parts, so we'll write down the speed, distance and time for each of those parts. So the first part, we're told in the question he runs 300 meters at a speed of 7.5 meters per second. So the distance is 300 meters and the speed is 7.5 meters per second. We don't know the time though. We'll then look at the second part. All we know for the second part is that the distance is 100 meters. We don't know speed or time. So if we go back to the first part, we're missing time, but we know a formula for time. Time is distance divided by speed. So if we do the distance, which is 300, divide by the speed, 7.5, we'll get the time. If you type this into your calculator, you'll get 40. We were also told in the question the total time for the race is 60 seconds. So we can actually work out the time for the second part now. 60 take away 40 is 20 seconds. So we're left with the speed for the second part. The formula for speed is distance divided by time. The distance in the second part is 100, and the time is 20 seconds. So 100 divided by 20 is 5 meters per second, and that's the answer to the question. The first thing we need to do in this question is draw a line of best fit. So I'm going to draw my line like this. You may not draw exactly the same line as me, but as long as it's a straight line and is close to this, you'll probably be okay. In the question, the patient has 2 fillings. So if we go on the y-axis and find 2, we can go from there, across to our line of best fit, and then down. We read off this value, which for me is 108. As long as your answer is somewhere between 100 and 116, you'll probably be okay. For the last part of this question, we need to decide which of the points is an outlier. An outlier is a point that's far away from your line of best fit, so it's this point here. In this question, we're told the population density of country A is twice that of country B. So we'll work out the population density of country A first. Using the formula, that's 72 million divided by 120,000, which comes out as 600. Since this is twice as much as the density of B, we'll half it. So 600 divided by 2 gives you 300. So that's the population density for country B. We can now work out the area of country B. If we look at the formula, but rearrange it so the area is the subject, we get area equals population divided by population density. So the population for B is 15 million from the table, divide that by the population density, which we know is 300, and you'll get the answer, 50,000 square miles. In this question, we have Tia who has £5,000 to invest for 3 years. We'll start by looking at Bank A. So there's £5,000 to invest, and the interest rate is 2.5% compound interest. So we multiply this by 1.025. But it was for 3 years, remember, so we'll do to the power 3 on the interest rate. If you type this into your calculator, you'll get this answer. Now let's look at Bank B. There's still £5,000 to invest, but in Bank B the first year's rate is 4%, so we multiply by 1.04, but all of the other years are 1%, so we'll multiply by 1.01 for each of those years. Now there's 2 years for that, because we've already used 1 year at 4% and there's 3 years in total, so we'll do that to the power 2. If you type this into your calculator, you'll get this as the answer. Now the question said how much more money will Tia make going with Bank A compared to Bank B. So we'll do the Bank A investment total, take away the Bank B investment total. And that gives you the answer of £79.93. In this question, we have to work out g of f of x. To do this, we'll write out the g function, but replace x by a bracket. So instead of 3x, 3 bracket. Then inside the bracket, we'll write the whole of the f function, which is x squared minus 2. If we expand this bracket, 3 times x squared is 3x squared, and 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. So the answer is the second one. The first thing to notice in this question is that the line DC is a diameter because it goes through the centre. This means that angle DBC is 90 degrees, since it's an angle in a semicircle. If we then look at the question, we're told that A, B, C and D are on the circumference. This means they form a cyclic quadrilateral. This means that the opposite angles marked here add to make 180 degrees. So if we do 180 take away 112, we'll find out this missing angle at 68 degrees. If we now look at this triangle here, DCB, we know that angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So if we do 90 add 68, which gets you 158, and then take that from 180, we'll get the missing angle x, 22 degrees. To draw this box plot, we'll start with the fastest and slowest times. So draw a vertical line at 22 and 30 minutes. We then move on to the quartiles, so draw a line at 24 and 29 minutes, and then if you connect up the quartiles, you'll form your box. You can connect the box to the greatest and least values, like this. And then finally, the median was 26 minutes, so draw a vertical line at 26 minutes. For the next question, we need to decide who was faster on average, and we need to use the median to support our answer. So if we look at Aggie's median first of all, that's 26 minutes. And then if we look at James's median, that's 24 minutes. This tells us that James was faster on average as his median was lower. For the next one, we need to decide who had more consistent times, and we're told to use the interquartile range. So if we look at Aggie's interquartile range, we do the upper quartile, take away the lower quartile, so that's 29 take away 24, which gives you an interquartile range of 5. If we look at James's interquartile range, that's the upper quartile 28, take away the lower quartile 22. So 28 take away 22 gives you 6. This tells us that Aggie had more consistent times as her interquartile range was lower. For this question, we have x plus 3 times by x minus 3 squared. When you square a bracket, you just write that bracket twice. So it's x minus 3 and then another one. We're going to focus on the first two brackets. We'll expand these using FOIL. So x times x squared, x times negative 3, negative 3x, 3 times x is plus 3x, and 3 times negative 3, negative 9. You can then simplify these terms, negative 3x add 3x is 0, so these cancel out and we're left with x squared minus 9. So we know these first two brackets here are equal to x squared minus 9, we just need to multiply by the last bracket here, x minus 3. We can use FOIL for this again, so x squared times x is x cubed, x squared times negative 3, negative 3x squared, negative 9 times x, negative 9x, and negative 9 times negative 3, positive 27. And this turns out to be your answer, there's no further simplification needed. For this question we're going to factorise. First of all, look at the coefficients. The highest common factor of 8 and 12 is 4. We then move along to the x's. We have x to the 6 and x to the 3. So the highest amount of x's we can factorise out is x to the power 3. Then look at the y's. We've just got a y and y to the 5. So the most y's we can factorise out is just 1. And there's only a z in the last term, not the first term, so we can't factorise that out at all. So we're now ready for the brackets. We need to work out what to multiply 4x cubed y by to get 8x to the 6y. To get from 4 to 8, you multiply by 2. To get from x to the 3 to x to the 6, we need another x cubed. And we've already got the y. We then have a minus in the middle. How do we get from 4x cubed y to 12x cubed y to the 5 z? To get from 4 to 12, you multiply by 3. We've already got the x cubed that we need. To get from y to the 5, we multiply by y to the 4, and then there's a z on the end. And this is fully factorised. Here we have a graph in the form y equals a to the x, and we're trying to find out a. If you look at this coordinate here, it has coordinates 3, 27. So when x is 3, y is 27. We can substitute those numbers into the equation. So y is 27 and x is 3. We now have an equation a to the power 3 equals 27. So something cubed is 27. If you cube root 27, you'll get 3. So a must be 3. Now that we know a is 3, we can write the equation as y equals 3 to the x. We're told here x is 4, so replace the x with 4, and we have 3 to the power 4. If you use your calculator, this will give you y equals 81. So the coordinate is 4, 81. So if we plot that on the graph like this, and then continue this smooth curve, we've completed the question. We're looking for ways that the product of the two numbers selected could be 3. One way of doing this is picking a 1 and then a 3. So we'll find the probability of a 1 and then a 3. The probability of picking 1 on the first pick is 5 out of 10, since there are 5 ones and 10 counters. We'll multiply this by the probability of picking a 3. On the second pick, there are 2 3 counters, but only 9 counters left in the bag since we're not replacing the first one, so we multiply by 2 out of 9. If we multiply these, you'll get 10 out of 90. We'll now look at the other possibility, the probability of a 3 followed by a 1. The probability of picking a 3 on the first pick is 2 out of 10. The probability of picking a 1 on the next pick is 5, out of 9 again remember, because we're not replacing that first counter. If you multiply these together, you'll also get 10 out of 90. We then need to add these two answers together, so 10 out of 90 add 10 out of 90 gives you 20 out of 90, which simplifies to 2 over 9. In this question, we're told that angle ABC is 90 degrees, so the triangle is right-angled, in which case we can use SOHCAHTOA. If you label the triangle, then x is the hypotenuse and 8 is the adjacent, in which case we're going to use cos. So cos of 31 would equal 8 over x. If you rearrange this, you'll get x equals 8 over cos 31. The formula for working out frequency density is frequency density equals frequency divided by class width. So if we look at the first group, we have a frequency of 6 and a class width of 20. So 6 divided by 20 is 0.3. This tells us that the first bar drawn here must have a height of 0.3, so we can complete the axis, up to 0.3 and beyond. We're asked to complete the histogram, but there's one of the bars missing, the bar from 25 to 40, which has a frequency of 9. So if we calculate the frequency density for this one, it's 9 divided by 15, since from 25 to 40 is 15, which gives you a frequency density of 0.6. So we need to draw a bar at the end from 25 to 40 with a frequency density of 0.6. We're going to calculate the surface area of this shape. We'll start with the square faces. You can see one on the front, one on the side, but there's also one hidden around the back, one on the left side, and one underneath. So altogether there are 5 square faces. Each of those square faces is 8 times 8, so we'll do 5 times 8 times 8, which gets you 320 centimeters squared. Now let's turn our attention to this semicircle. There's an identical one of these around the back. 2 semicircles put together just makes a circle, so we'll do pi times r squared. If the base of the shape is 8 centimeters, then the radius would be half of this, so 4. So to get these blue bits, we do pi times 4 squared, which gives you this. Now we'll focus on this green area here. This is the curved surface of half of a cylinder. If we flatten this out, it would make a rectangle like this. The height of that rectangle would be 8, because it's the same as the side length of the cube. Normally, for the surface area of a whole cylinder, this bottom length here represents the circumference, which would be pi times diameter. But this time it's only half of it, so it would be pi times the radius. We already know the radius is 4, so this is pi times 4. So to find the area of this rectangle, we multiply pi times 4 by 8. If we do pi times 4 times 8, we'll get this number. So now all we need to do is add up our surface areas to get the total surface area. So 320 plus 50.2 and so on, plus 100.5 and so on, we'll get the answer 470.8 centimeters squared. We'll start this question by looking at the left triangle, ACD. If we label it in this way, with side A, and then opposite angle capital A, and then side B, and opposite angle capital B, we can then use the sine rule. Let's substitute capital A first, so sine 42, and then the lowercase b is 8, and the capital B is 62 degrees. If you rearrange this by multiplying by sine 42, you get this, which if you type into your calculator will give you a value of A. So we now know this side length A is 6.06. If we then look at the right hand triangle, ABC, we can use the cosine rule. We'll label it in the following way, and then capital letter angles. If we write out the cosine rule and start substituting in these numbers, then we have A squared equals B squared, which is 14 squared, add C squared, which is 6.06 and so on squared, and then take away 2BC, which is take away 2 times B, which was 14, and C, which was our new side, 6.06, and then times by cos A, which is cos 80. If you type all of that into your calculator, you'll get A squared equals 203.27 and so on. To get A, we just square root this, so square root of that gives you the answer 14.26. Since both of these equations are written in the form y equals, we can just write the right hand side of these equations equal to each other. So 2x squared plus 30x plus 61 equals 1 minus 4x. This is now an equation in x that we need to solve. The first thing I would do is add 4x to both sides. If you add 4x to the left, then the 30x will become 34x. Add 4x to the right, and that will cancel the negative 4x. Then take away 1 from both sides, so on the left the 61 will now become 60, and then the 1 will become 0. We can now divide by 2 on both sides. Dividing 2 on the left gives x squared plus 17x plus 30, and on the right 0 divided by 2 is still 0. We can now factorise this quadratic into two brackets, x plus 15 and x plus 2 equals 0. This gives you two solutions for x, so x would equal -15, and also x equals -2. You need to remember to get your y values though, so we need to substitute these x values back into one of the equations. I'd suggest the second one is probably easier. So y equals 1 minus 4x. So y equals 1 minus 4 lots of -15, which gives you 61. And for the second one, y equals 1 minus 4 lots of -2, which gives you 9. So we end up with two solutions here. The first one is when x is -15 and y is 61, and the second one is when x is -2 and y is 9. Thank you for watching this video. Here are some suggested grade boundaries. Let me know in the comments how you get on. Also check out what I think you should watch next, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.